Hi, and thanks for joining our session today, Connecting Project and Corporate Financials. My name is Chris Porter. I'm the Solutions Manager here at Prophix Software. And also thanks for joining Groundbreak this year. As mentioned, my name is Chris. I'm responsible for our construction solutions here at Prophix. I spend my days developing solutions to help our contractors run their business better with Prophix. Prophix is a corporate performance management solution that provides organizations and finance professionals alike with a better platform to run their business, to make decisions, to run reports, to build forecasts. Most organizations for the longest time have run their analytics and planning in Excel, which up until recently and up until a certain point, it's just not really sustainable. As companies look at finance departments to be more strategic business partners and less of sort of more back office tasks, the ability to do things like negotiate contracts, deliver information to the field, look at M&A is just not possible if they're bogged down by manual, labor-intensive processes. Finance too has to grow and innovate. We're growing and innovating so many other areas of our organizations nowadays. The back office, it should really no longer be the back office. In many ways, they are now the front office of the organization and very much a strategic role. We can all relate to this. Multiple systems, no connections between them, and massive Excel sheets or technical reporting tools that we use to make the data sing. End users have questions that Excel sheets just can't answer. Executives want to understand the forecast, but that takes too long to compile. The problem can truly be traced back to one source, and that ultimately that source is Excel. But it doesn't have to be this way. At Prophix, we're focused on helping contractors adapt to an increasingly uncertain business environment by automating manual tasks and giving you more time for analysis. In order to do so, you need to bring all of your data under one roof, and more importantly, you need to centralize the logic so everybody's on the same page. Prophix connects to these various data systems either by API like we do with Procore, flat file, or using our data integration service, which automates the data flow and refresh from those various systems that don't have an API. We then pull that data into our centralized models and structures to make it accessible and easy for users to create what-if scenarios, models, and analysis on. We truly put the power back in your hands, in the end user's hands, to be self-sufficient users of your own data. So how does this all really work, you might ask? Well, the best way to explain it is to visualize the efforts that go into transforming raw data in Excel, so data you've taken out of a system, into consumable reports and analysis. In this example, we have sales and cost by job, by department, and company. You would then have to take this data and apply formulas to it, or group it further using other formulas or pivot tables, and that's just for one tab. Ultimately, then you'd have to break it down tab by tab by tab to give all the different people what they're looking for. As you can imagine, and as you know, this isn't scalable, and of course, this isn't reliable. What Prophix does is it makes all of those same fields and formulas into a centralized, organized structure, meaning everybody's using the same structure, the same way of calculating things. We're all on the same page. For example, we all have ways that we organize our jobs, our cost types, our time ranges, our change orders, etc. By centralizing it, we ultimately, though, make it accessible. There's a data coordinate for every single value in the Prophix system. This is called cube technology. It ultimately is kind of like a pivot table that you can truly slice and dice. Everybody's always asking to drill down, always asking to slice and dice, bring this field, put it there. That's ultimately what cube technology does. It's like a pivot table that has access to all of the data. Now, because that data is organized at all levels of detail, it allows you to drill into that 325 associated with the Amazon warehouse and get the answers you're looking for. Remember, we started with the 2018 equipment costs, and we now have drilled down into phases and quarters and individual cost codes. Also, you can click and drag other associated fields in the cube as you need, and because all of the data is truly at your fingertips. So without further ado, let's see some data in action. So as we jump on in here to Prophix, Prophix is a web-based platform similar to Procore, giving you the ability to see all of this information anywhere, anytime on any device. You're greeted with a dashboard, whether this is your dashboard, aka your home screen, or perhaps this is your dashboard, aka your home screen. And by giving people this information, it gives them data at their fingertips. But most importantly, with a cube-based technology like Prophix, it gives them the ability to interact with the data. One example of that is you may look like at a project manager's billings, and you want to know the jobs that are making up those billings. Well, because there's a central hierarchy that organizes jobs by PM, I can simply right-click and drill down, right? Now I can do this anywhere, anytime, whether I'm in a chart or I'm in a report, because again, it's using that central PM hierarchy. The same logic can be applied for time ranges. I'm taking a look at quarters and I want to drill down to look at the months. Great, I can get to that information. It's truly, truly easy. Now, the next thing though is that commonly with visual analytics, people want to see more detail. They want to see the information behind what they're looking at. And you can do this in a couple of different fashions. The first way is you can right click and actually access all the transactions. Those transactions may be coming from Procore in the form of a change order. It may be coming from the ERP system, but ultimately you can always get to that data pretty easily. The other way, which is a little bit more common, is someone might want to right click and actually go to a supporting report. In this example, I've gone from our quarterly chart, a bar chart, down to a set of financial statements. These are our integrated financial statement report that comes with Prophix, giving you the ability to see high-level financials of all of your main financial statements. Over here to the left, depending on your user security, you'll be able to filter through various fields like time, companies, divisions, departments. But what we want to do is we want to be able to give people a guided journey of analysis. We want to do away with this whole concept of you have to go find that report. It's in this folder, right? We want to be able to just give them that journey, make it easy. And so as an example, now that I'm kind of in my detail, I'm alarmed when I see there's an 18% variance on a particular expense, right? And so, in this case, we have this fairly large expense here. And so I may want to know more about it. There's these companies and there are these divisions or departments up here in the pages. I could filter between them and maybe come to a conclusion, at that level. But why not make it simple? Why not make it such that I can use these fields and drag them into my report? This is really where the magic happens in the technology that Prophix brings to the table. This is where you can actually, as we talked about before, have a pivot table that has access to all the data and is already pre-configured and ready to go for you. So as I go on my journey to determine what's causing this significant variance, I can now click and drag those fields over here on the right side onto my report. And now I can come to the conclusion that it's specifically this company and it's this department within that company. So in this case, it's estimation. And so now I've easily come to that conclusion, all because the data is already structured and organized. So this is just one example on the topic of your financials. Let's take a look at a different example, but more in the vein of your jobs, right? We're all Procore users, so we all have jobs that we need to analyze. So in the concept of a standard WIP report, most organizations will produce a WIP report that looks kind of like this, right? You got your jobs in the rows, maybe you got some filters, but ultimately it's pretty high level, all things considered. It doesn't go down to a phase level. It doesn't go down to a cost level. It doesn't give you the ability to look at all that detail. So let's take that same approach when we look at margin fade. Unfortunately, we all experience this in our jobs, in our contracts. And so take that same approach and use these fields to understand what's happening behind your margin fade. And so as we take a look at this right now, I can now, in this case, take my phases, drag them onto that job. So now effectively I have a WIP by phase. And now I can take my actual cost and drag it up onto the columns, and I can see actual cost, our projection, our estimate at completion, and so on, giving us the ability to really understand this further. And finally, now that I know that the fade is coming from two particular phases, I'll drag my cost codes back onto those phases, and now I can come to the conclusion that in the steel phase, it's coming from subs, and in the scaling phase, it's coming from materials. So giving us the ability to get to this is all made possible by the central structures that we've talked about before. What makes CPM, which makes corporate performance management special, is the ability to look to the future, right? And so I'm going to look at our cash forecasting capabilities in particular. As an organization, you know that in order to forecast cash, you need your AR, you need your AP, you need your overhead, and you need a lot of other things to make that possible. With a system like Prophix, we can make all of that possible by centralizing and bringing all the necessary data in to be able to make consolidating and corporate cash flows easy. So in particular, as we look to forecast AR and AP, we need to consider the fact that in order to do so, we need to be able to bring in all of our AP and AR. And so in this case, users can open up a template that gives them the ability to look at all of their cash forecasting capabilities, right? So now we take a look at all of this. We see, okay, great. This is my outstanding AR, and it gives you the ability to project into the future, right? So that's component number one. Component number two of all of this is we need to also forecast our operating expenses, right? We need to be able to understand, our overhead cost. And so we have a dedicated model to help you forecast all of those costs as well. And finally, and pretty importantly, we need to also forecast, high level revenue, high level cost. And so in this example here, you can see, we have our backlog. And one of the things that Prophix does that's really special is it helps you take those cost to complete forecasts and spread them over time. So if this is my cost to complete and I want to spread that cost to complete over a period of time, Prophix makes that possible by giving you the ability to spread that value over the remainder of the job. This is imperative to doing cash flow forecasting. You can't just take a number and say, this is how much is left. Finance needs to know how much is going to come in month 1, month 2, month 3, and so on. And so the spreading or time-based forecasting is really bridging that gap for our customers. And so as all of these planning components are taken care of, they're taken care of by our workflow. Workflow manages who needs to fill out what, who approves what, and it really actually makes the process of collaboration, which is what forecasting and planning is all about, it makes it that much more enjoyable. It makes it more of a collaborative and cohesive process. And so as users are filling out those processes and they're filling out those templates, finance can rest assured that there's no consolidation step at the end of all of this. They can actually come into their cash flow forecast and actually see, now that net income has been filled out, great, I can actually understand, this is where we're headed, right? Those forecasts are feeding back into our financials. But as we kind of come into the later parts of the year, we all know as things get into the winter months, things tend to slow down in certain parts of the country. We may want to sit there and say, what if I need to increase my ending cash, to make this positive? What if I decrease my overhead costs by 10%? I can come into my cash flow forecast. I can create another version, another what if you will, and actually, create a couple of different scenarios where one I increase, one where I decrease. It actually can play around with the numbers. I can see if this happens, then this will be the outcome. That's really the power of what CPM brings to the table, is the actionable ability to understand the future. Your roadmap with Prophix, though, only begins, right at the start with financials and WIP. That's where we always start. But you can quickly move into other areas like cash forecasting, resource management, so looking at your employee utilization, your equipment rental rates, things like safety analytics, bid analysis. It really stems beyond just your traditional financials and WIP and really looks at being able to run your business better. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We can be reached at construction@prophix.com. Thank you for attending the session today. We hope you learned a couple things there about how CPM can help contractors. And once again, thank you for attending Groundbreak this year.